Hi, folks, and welcome back once again to another Saturday morning Samoflange. Just going to be me for the next few weeks. Benjamin's show will be coming up shortly. It takes about 6 weeks to do a show, so I do expect him back. Now, there was one fun thing I wanted to do, which is the title of this one. Fun Easter eggs in media is what I'm saying, because they're not all movies here. But as you know, I can't do this all by. If I do this by myself, it's like a 10-minute podcast. So I got to talk about something else. I got to add a second feature in there. So what I'm going to do is, someone had asked me, and we didn't do this necessarily, but said, "Hey, what is the top 5 TV shows that you would like to see closure on?" Now, we kind of did this because I looked this up. I was pretty sure we'd done this, and I looked this up, and we did one that 10 TV shows. Or 10 reboots, or not reboots, continuations we want to TV shows. And it kind of was the same, but then I noticed some of the shows, they got an ending, but we just wanted to see more of them. And so from that, probably one of these shows, looking at this list, maybe probably two, are on here. You've heard me talk about 2, I guess, and that is my number 1 and 2, actually. But I'm going to go into, what do I have here? Is that number 4? Messed this up. Okay, I'm going to go to number 5. Number 5 is a show I just watched last year called Deadwood. Deadwood's really good. It got like a little movie years later because it ended. There's a story about this. Deadwood was supposed to get a 4th season, I believe, and the creator was very hypersensitive to bad news, and when HBO said, "Hey, how many episodes do you need to finish it? Can you finish it in 6 or 8 or whatever?" The story kind of fluctuates, and he got super pissed because it's like half the episodes from regular seasons. He said, "Screw it, we won't do it again," or "F it, we're done." And so he just stopped doing the series, which kind of ended on a little bit of a cliffhanger. However, they did give it a movie, but you could see they still wanted to tell more stories from it. So I kind of wish we'd have gotten some closure. The big villain, he never gets his comeuppance, even in the movie, which I was really shocked. I thought he would. It's weird seeing people like years later, because all the actors I watch these back to back, and the actors are definitely all older now. And it wasn't bad. It was good. It was fine. But I wish it would have gotten some closure. My number 4 is easy. Star Trek, the original series. What am I talking about? Well, it was a 5-year mission that we only saw 3 years. Now, true, the cartoon is technically, I guess, the last 2 years of that mission. But I would have loved, and this bothered me as a kid, because when I found out it went through seasons, and I asked my mom, I said, "Wait a minute, what happens after their mission's over?" Because I want to see what happened in the 5th mission, and they go back home, their 5-year mission. And Mom said, "Well, it only went 3 years." I was like, and for some reason I thought mission was year. I mean, 5-year mission. I thought that was years. See, every season was 1 year. You could have condensed that, I guess, but either way, I wanted it to go. Now, I thought about the other TV shows. Does Voyager need to return home? No, I hated Voyager. Enterprise was a little rushed. They got to an ending, but they did get some closure. And then, of course, Star Trek just ends on one of their mini adventures. And I kind of wish they would have completed their 5-year mission and were finally returning home. We could have seen an ending to that. I bet Gene Roddenberry wished that too. Anyway, number 3, I've talked about slightly before on this podcast, but Terminator, the Sarah Chronicles. I was a big fan of this one that came out in like 2008, 2009. And this is right before Terminator Salvation was coming out in theaters. And I thought, well, surely, because I knew the numbers were low, but I said, well, surely they'll, do a season 3 because the movie's coming out this summer. It'll probably reinvigorate interest into Terminator. And they'll do a season 3 because it ended on a cliffhanger. Well, unfortunately, that was not the case, and it didn't end at all. And it was actually, the first season was a little rough, but the second season, I felt they found its legs, and it was moving, and I was interested in seeing where it was going, and it never did. Now, I had never hear anyone talk about that one. Never. So that's one that no one ever talks about. And then the number 2 and 1 you've heard me talk about. Number 2 is the excellent, superb BBC series In the Flesh. In fact, I'm thinking about rewatching that again later on this year, just because I've been talking about it recently, and I really want to see it again. Even though it never got, we never got closure on what happened. Not even because I looked online after I did my last podcast about zombie movies, and I looked online. There was a Kickstarter supposedly where they were going to release the script of what would have been a third season, but even that, to my knowledge, did not get put out. So, and I was hoping for a novelization because I would love to have read it, but they never finished it. And you think they'd at least do something like that, but no one did, and it's sad we don't get closure for that. However, it's an excellent series with no closure. And then number 1 is the one that everyone probably talks about on theirs. Of course, it's Firefly. Of course, Serenity wasn't the end of it. It didn't give us full closure. We still don't know the 2x2 Hands in Blue. People still going after River. And I mean, there's just lots of adventures left. Now, the books basically take place before the movie. All of them take place before the movie because the comic book storyline takes place after the movie, and the comic books are not that good. I stopped getting the comic books just because they were awful. Will I go back and collect them one day? If I find them for uber cheap, maybe. But the comic books were really garbage, and I just stopped buying them. They were just so badly written. Where the books, for the most part, are well written. There's a few stinkers. One of them is, I've already forgot his name from Dawn of the Jedi. It'll come to me in a minute. But either way, though, he wrote one, and it was terrible. He wrote the same type, right, just the way that guy, Tim Levin, the way he writes is just so terrible. And then there's probably one other one that I thought was really bland and boring. But other than that, they've really set the tone of those. I've really enjoyed every Firefly novel, and I definitely will continue to buy the Firefly novels. But again, is it closure? Do we have closure on it? Now, the comic books may talk about Hands of Blue, may talk about, I know Zoe, spoilers, I guess, if you're looking at the expanded universe of Firefly, but Zoe got pregnant with Wash's kid before he died, very convenient, but she had his kid, and she was raising him on his own. And the thing is, you think a comic book that takes place after Serenity is going to be good. It was terrible. It was terrible. Again, maybe someday, maybe I'm talking myself into it right now that I should go on and start scooping up all the trades to Firefly and reading that awful, terrible garbage again. But like they did the origin of book, and it was horrible. It was hard, and I loved the idea. And then I remember the one that killed me was I can't think of her name, the redheaded girl. They did like a little story about her. And that book cost like $8. It was a one shot. $8, and it was nothing. It was a big nothing burger. And that's what most of these comic books are. Nothing ever happens, nothing ever interesting, just a regurgitation, why couldn't I say that? Of the jokes from the TV show. It's so embarrassing. But maybe if it's done, maybe that series is done now. Maybe I can just go back and buy them all. I don't even think I tried looking for those comic books, and maybe I threw them away. I don't know where they are. I don't have any of the comic books now, which is kind of weird because I collected them. But maybe I gave them to someone. I think that may have been what it was. I gave her my Firefly collection, and she never returned it, and so it's kind of lost for all mankind. It's okay because I wasn't really missing them, I'd say. But maybe, because I remember the ongoing series is still going. Maybe I'd go back. I don't even know if the comic book brought it closure. I would doubt it did. I'm doubting that it kind of changed the world and gave him a happy ending. If I'm wrong, I'll read the comic books. The novelizations, yes, I can highly, except for Tim Levin's and I want to say it was The Ghost Machine. Was not that good. It was kind of bland. Other than that, though, the novels, thumbs up. The comic books, thumbs down. Now, moving on, we're talking about Easter eggs. Now, we did one, because I do look back. We've done so many topics, so many top fives on Saturday Morning Samoflange. I'm shocked when I find one that we've never done before. And we've revisited a few too. And this one, a long time ago, in the early days of Samoflange, we actually did top 5 TV and then movie cameos. It was back when CJ and Mikey and I were doing it. Now, this one is Easter eggs, so it's not a particular person. It's just an item that was in there. And I think I have some that I know I have most of these no one does. 2 of them people know, a third people should know, and the other 2 people don't know. Well, if you listen to the podcast, you probably heard one of these. But there are some very unique Easter eggs. I will tell you about an honorable mention, one that I did not know. When I do that, it was very hard to search for this, by the way. I wrote down 5 Easter eggs I enjoyed. Then I watched YouTube videos on it. I watched articles on it, and still none of those changed my mind. These were the 5 I mentioned are the 5 I'm going to put in. And then plus, on top of that, no one mentioned a couple of these. So I don't know if they don't know them or probably don't care. But 2 in particular, are kind of cool, but no one's ever mentioned them. So let me start. Where do I have these? Okay, number 5. Number 5 is, this is the only video game. Yeah, I used to play a lot of PC games. We're talking floppy disk, baby. Back in the day, when we had a home computer, Dad bought King's Quest and then later on Space Quest, where if anyone doesn't know, you'd walk around the world using your arrow keys on your keyboard and then hitting enter, and a box would pop up and you'd type text in that box and ask it a question and it would respond. And it was just the old school Explorer there. And sometimes if a bigger game, you had to put in floppy disk too, and it would take a minute to load up. But you could save your game. It wouldn't automatically save. You'd have to press save every once in a while to save your spot in the game. So my dad had this. It carried over with us when we moved to Monroe, but in Mississippi, Forest, Mississippi, we were playing King's Quest and Space Quest, and still played it a little bit. Man, those early PC game days. Whew. If I haven't told anyone about that, when we moved, I remember in Mom and Dad's room playing Wolfenstein 3D and then Doom, which we played. I must have played that Wolfenstein a billion times. I love the old 3D shooter Wolfenstein. Of course, Doom 2, we played our hearts out on it. I think Doom 3 I played once, and I don't remember that well, but Doom and Doom 2 played all the time in my parents' room on their little home computer. It's amazing. You see, the thing is with my kids today, I was thinking about this just today. My kids are in the world of technology. You have your own tablets, your own cell phones that can do anything. They can go anywhere and all this cool stuff. But the thing is, though, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when I'm old, there's going to be so much new technology and things I haven't even imagined yet. Like, I'm going to be like, what? And they're going to be thinking, hey, remember when the internet was super slow? The internet will never be fast enough for me. I'll promise you that. The internet's always slow. Every time. The internet's super slow. I keep waiting for a breakthrough in fast internet. I have yet to see it. I've yet to see fast internet. Fast to my definition. But anyway, long story short, King's Quest was the game, and in it, you'd walk by this cave. Now, it didn't happen every time, but every 5th time or 10th time, we had to, when you went to one world, it would load to the next screen, and then you could go back. So we went back and forth, and every maybe 10th time you visited the cave, the Batmobile would come out. And it'd go, and it'd drive out of the cave and then drive back in. And we thought, whoa, what was that? Because you go by it a million times, it wouldn't happen, or 10 times, I guess. It only happened once. And if you're fast enough to type in look, you had enter and hit look before it went back into the Batcave and went, oh, that? Don't worry about that. That's from a different video game. It got lost. And we cackled and laughed. And the Batmobile being in King's Quest was just the, you know what? And I've never heard anyone say that. And let me see if I Google that, if it'll pop up. I should have done that. Yeah, there it is. There's actually someone doing a video on it. So you can actually see the Batmobile coming in and coming out. So let's see.
Okay, so I've actually already changed the positions.
Yeah.
Enough, it does have a collision detection where I cannot go through.
So Batman. Yeah, it's the Batmobile coming out. So there is a YouTube video on it. That's really funny. But yeah, you can check that out if you even remember what King's Quest and Space Quest is. And I played the bejesus out of those. All right, so number 4 is one that is that number 4? Should it be? Yeah, I'll put it at number 4. Number 4 because there were some people online who talked about this one. But I've always enjoyed the Star Wars Indiana Jones references. Indiana Jones and Star Wars references. I never noticed them as a kid, and I watched these movies a billion times. And I never knew it until college or right after college. I think DVDs were coming out, and then finally you could pause it just right. VHSs you could pause, but sometimes you'd have that little fizzle bar in the middle that would kind of obstruct the whole screen. And so on DVD you could pause just right. And I was blown away that R2-D2 and C-3PO are in Raiders of the Lost Ark. That the club, and I didn't know this for years later, because I thought that was the only reference to Indiana Jones and Star Wars. But later on my own watching, I just happened to be watching The Last Crusade, which I watched a million times as a kid. The club he's in is Club Obi-Wan. Never caught that. I never, ever caught. Another thing I caught about the same time after college was that Dan Aykroyd is in that movie, Last Crusade. However, because he was so famous, they didn't want to take away from the scene. So Dan Aykroyd is basically kind of covering his face as he's talking to Indiana Jones gets onto the plane. But you can tell by the voice alone, it is Dan Aykroyd. And like I said again, I was like, wait, was Dan Aykroyd in this? Because I remember hearing his voice. I was like, shut up. So that was really cool. But the Star Wars references were there too. Now, someone told me in Last Crusade, and I kind of hear it, but the Imperial March is being played on the piano in the background when the villain comes in. That's because he was in Empire Strikes Back. I believe he was Commander Veers, the same actor who played Commander Veers. I actually met the guy. I actually met this guy at a Comic-Con, and I asked him, and he said he wasn't sure, but he wouldn't put it past them. He said, because that type of thing, he said, they all knew me. He said, George and Steven knew me. I'd worked with them a little bit with Star Wars, and he said, so it wouldn't surprise me if they do that. That sounds like them. He said, but I literally don't remember. He's very nice guy to me. But those are kind of well-known Easter eggs, I would say. So that's probably why this gets pushed down. And number 3 is one that I'm finding now, today, even as of last year, I started talking about this Easter egg, and everyone looks at me with a blank face and goes, wait, what? That's in the movie? I'm like, yes, you haven't seen it? Because I remember seeing it when I was a kid. The first time I ever watched Gremlins, there's a great gag because while the dad is calling from the convention, there is the old 1960s time machine from the movie The Time Machine, and it's in the background. And Mom watched The Time Machine. I think it came on TBS back in the day, and we'd watch it, and I love that movie. In fact, I recently rewatched Time Machine and the 2002 or whatever remake, which I think both movies are excellent. They're so much fun. The original one's so much fun, and so is the new one. I love them both equally. But so I was a big Time Machine fan, so looking in the background, I saw it and I laughed. Now, the really funny thing is later on, as the dialogue's shifting to the son a lot, it goes back to the father, and in the background where the time machine was is nothing but I think like a little bit of smoke, like a char underneath it, and everyone's like looking around like where'd the time machine go? Like someone had used it. That is brilliance. That is absolute brilliance. I never saw any of those call outs online or on YouTube videos. It was so cool to see the time machine in the background and then have it disappear. Maybe because not many people know that movie anymore, the old movie, The Time Machine, that no one kind of got or no one would get the reference now. But back in the day, that was a fantastic reference and one of my favorites. Now, not my utmost favorite, and I really wish CJ was here for this. In fact, sidebar story, I actually talked to CJ today. It happens to be a Saturday as I'm recording this, and I told him about my Easter egg one, and he said, "Oh, don't forget to mention Predator 2," and we started laughing. If you don't know, Predator, of course, the alien skull is in that one. The first time they said, "Hey, these two, movie monsters may have met." But the running gag for Saturday Morning Samoflange 2, for Predator 2 is a long, one of our very first few topics that year was best sequels. And for some reason, CJ said Predator 2. And it threw me and Mikey off so bad because we had no idea. Predator 2 of all of them? That's the one? And we started laughing. And so for a good part of a year, we would make a Predator 2 reference every time he was about to tell his top whatever, his number 5. So, or back then, I think, well, no, it was still top 5. We just lasted a lot longer there. I don't know if it was top 10. But anyway, we joke about Predator 2. But he joked about this to me when I told him the topic. He said, "You going to talk about Predator 2?" And we started laughing because that's, and I asked him if he wanted to come over and do this. He couldn't. It was a busy Saturday. He was at a birthday party. I was just trying to tire my kids out. We were at the park together. But man, oh man, it's always good to talk to that dude, CJ. And again, Saturdays usually are the best day to get a hold of him, and the absolute worst day. I'm watching all 4 kids on my own and trying to clean up this house, even though I cleaned up. I'm way off base here, but I cleaned up the upstairs only to find that they've spilled something. Maybe it was their cousins or whatever, but there's stains on the carpet. I can't stand stains on the carpet. No one cleans up stains. My wife gets a paper towel and just rubs on it, but you got to get a wet rag and rub it out. No one does that in this house. So now I'm dealing with stains that I won't. I'm just obsessed. I got to get rid of them now. Either way, I digress. Of course, when I saw in the theater, I watched Predator 2, I believe in the theater. I saw it. No, I did not. I saw it on VHS. Never mind. I saw it on VHS, and when we saw the alien skull, it was bright and clear right there on the wall. We freaked out. I remember whose house I was at. Guy's name was Matthew Peacock. And when the camera kind of scrolled past the wall and you saw the alien head, we didn't know. We didn't know it was in there. But we were like, "Oh, look, the alien!" And we rewound that scene. It's right toward the end of the movie. So we wanted to know what was going to happen, but we wanted to see that alien skull again. And then after the movie was over, we're like, "Oh, dude, they're going to do Aliens versus Predator next." And of course, that was the rumor for like another 10 years. Until they finally did it, and then we wished they never had made those movies. It was so bad. How do you make terrible Aliens versus Predator movies? Just look at them. I wish someone would make a third one, because it can't be as bad as the first two. The first one is the absolute worst, and the second one is the second worst. Saved by, it's been forever. I will never watch these movies again, but I remember there was a cool death scene in Aliens vs. Predator 2. I don't remember now what it was. Oh, yeah, I do. They killed the pregnant woman, which I didn't see coming. And I said, okay, kudos, I didn't see that coming. So maybe it wasn't a cool death scene. They just did something that I didn't think they'd do, and that's barely why it escapes the wrath of, not being the worst. Season 1. The first one, definitely the worst. But anyway, seeing that image back in the early 90s and just freaking out over it. I mean, that was one of my biggest Easter eggs, and we were all just, this is back before the internet, and we just did nothing but gossip And I mean, we all love Predator 2. I remember thinking it wasn't as good as the first one, but we all still, we loved any Predator movie. But then later on, going back and watch the first one, was like, no, the first one's leagues better. The second one's not bad. But the first one is leagues better. And then finally, my numero uno is one that I have found that I have not heard a single soul talk about. In fact, I told Benjamin 2 years ago about this Easter egg. And thankfully, this movie came out again in this Christmas called The Grinch. And for the first time, every time I watch The Grinch, it seems like I see something new. I saw Dallas Bryce Howard finally on the last showing. I'd heard she was in there. I never saw her until recently. I saw that a lot of the Who's that get little cameos or small appearances are in the entire film. Like if you're an extra, you are a character and you are seen here, here, and here wearing the same dress and having the same gimmick, which I thought was really nice. But the best one that I saw 2 years ago was when the Grinch is looking down at Whoville through his telescope. If you look at them, you can pause on your DVD too, or digital streaming. When he's looking down at him, look at the tripod. Pause it real quick. One of the tripod's legs is a lamp. It's a high heel, sexy leg lamp, like in The Christmas Story. I promise you that's where the gag is. Because it's a Christmas movie. Christmas Story had the leg lamp. He has the leg telescope. It's the third leg. And I've seen that movie at the time. I had seen that movie this is my 23rd time to watch it. And I just now caught it. So that was amazing. This movie is always amazing. May it forever play at Christmas at the movie theater for me, because I will go every stinking time. Every stinking time. I think it's a fantastic film. All right, so honorable mention. One that I did not know about, that when I was looking for, I had to type in obscure movie Easter eggs. I found one that pleased my soul and has embarrassed me because I've seen this movie a billion times. Just watched it on streaming again to see if I could find the Easter egg. I fast forwarded to the scene they were talking about, and it is there. Groundhog Day. I even got to see this in theaters when it got re-released on Groundhog Day. He saves the boy from falling out of the tree. When the last scene, or in the scene where he's had the perfect day, where he's getting applauded. Some people think he's a doctor and whatnot, and they're going to the restaurant. Well, in the background is that boy, the same boy, but he's in a cast in a wheelchair, which means Bill Murray's character stopped saving him. After so many years, like, you know what? I'm not going to save you anymore, you ungrateful brat. And so he just lets him break his leg. So follow the tree and break his leg. And that was in there. That Easter egg has been in there for decades, and I had no earthly idea. I cannot wait to tell Benjamin about that. Maybe he listens to this and he'll find out on his own. But I thought that was an unbelievable, brilliant Easter egg that I've never seen. I never even knew about. Now, truth be told, in this one, I do want to hear your comments a lot, because I'm not talking about cameos. I want Easter eggs. What were Easter eggs in there? I want video games. You have to go with old video games to impress me. But if there's any old video game references, if there is any movies, I didn't look at TV shows. I'm sure there's some in TV shows. I just didn't think about it. But if there's some obscure ones or ones I would get, there's a lot of the basic ones that are out there that I know about. But if you would, go ahead and put them in the comments. I would love to hear. Which Easter eggs that you have found. Supposedly, and someone can correct me on this, but I read somewhere the Easter egg comes from, what's it called? Little Shop of Horrors, when the cast did an Easter egg hunt during filming, but then decided to leave actual Easter eggs in certain shots, and that's where the term Easter egg came from. I don't know. Sounds contrived, but maybe I got bamboozled on that one. But I mean, heck, I believe it. By the way, Rocky Horror Picture Show is what it's called. Excuse me, not Little Shop of Horrors. Rocky Horror Picture Show. And by the way, that's a movie I've never seen. Yep. All right, folks. We'll see you next time on Saturday Morning Samoflange.